Welcome to Freaky Fauna Friday, where every Friday we take a little time and explore some of the freaks of nature from around the planet we cherish so deeply. So please, jump aboard and let's explore the wilds together. Welcome back to Freaky Fauna Friday. I am the great and peaceful Mystery.
And I'm Jay. And boy, does it feel good to be back.
Guess who's back? Back again. It's Jay.
Jay is back.
It's been like a month and a half.
Tell
as far
your
as
friends.
anybody knows.
Tell them to like, subscribe, share, and something, feed.
Yeah, everybody, share Freaky Fauna Friday with all of your friends.
Yeah, share this episode specifically.
Yeah, actually, that'd be a really good one. Because this is the one I'm breaking the rules, because this is not a Freaky Fauna Friday. This is a Freaky Fungal Friday. You did guess it right in the intro. Yeah, we're going to talk about Bob.
Bob, our friend from, Washington or Oregon?
Oregon.
Okay, and it was up there, northwest.
Oregon's Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountain Bob.
Now, we're going to talk about Bob. He's the largest organism on the planet. And this is Bob, so here's the thing, is why fungus aren't flora, even though a lot of times they're considered flora, which makes no sense to me. They're much more related to animals than plants. They have organ groups that are much more similar to animal organ groups than plant organ groups.
Okay.
So to make a botanist also study fungus makes no sense to me. So botanist is a plant, a guy that specializes in plants specifically. Right. And there's a dendrologist that specializes in trees. They work a lot with fungus because of the interconnectivity with fungus and trees. But it just is weird. Obviously, there's mycologists. There's people that specialize in fungus. Mm-hmm. But as the traditional flora and fauna, like just those terminology, mushrooms fall in flora, and I think they should be put in fauna.
Gotcha.
Just there you go. So that's why Bob is going to be included in this episode.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about Bob. He's the largest organism on the planet, and this is argued a couple different ways. Because he's not a clone. So if you look at Pando, which is a forest, it's a tree.
Okay.
It's all a forest, it's one tree. They're a bunch of clones of the same tree.
Okay.
So technically, genetically, it's all one organism.
Does it share the same root system?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
So it's weird. You know, it's a whole different thing. And then there's the one species of seagrass. That's a seagrass meadow out in the open ocean. That is all one organism. And they're not sure if it's more like Pando, to where it's a bunch of clones of the same organism, or if it's more like Bob, and it's all just one giant
spreading out.
That's spread out that far.
Okay.
So there's still research into that. So as right now, Bob is the true largest single living organism. All right. We're going to talk about how big Bob is. Yeah. It's really funny. So, most people, when you say mushroom, what do you think of? You think of like a shiitake at the grocery store.
Right, yeah.
Not something the size of a state or national forest.
Right, yeah.
So, do you remember how big Bob is?
Well, you're talking about just the entire organism, not just the part above ground, like the
entire organism. So, we're going to talk about
not the budding body.
Yeah, so we'll get into that stuff, but just how much land space Bob takes up. Do you remember the number?
Yeah, it's like I don't know how many acres it is. Is it like 400 acres?
2,384 acres.
That's a bit off.
2,300 acres.
Bit off.
Yeah. That's 965 hectares.
Ooh.
Which is big. It's for anybody that knows either of those measurements, it's big.
A hectare.
Like most fields around us that you see, the really big fields are like 100 acres, 80 to 100 acres are really big fields as one piece.
How much acres are in a hectare?
Well, whatever 230 or 2,384 divided by 965 is.
Well, I don't have my calculator on me.
2.3.
Okay.
Roughly. I don't know. That's fast math. It's wrong, but fast math.
Ballparking it. That's close enough.
It's like 2.5 almost because, anyways. Lives in the soil of the Oregon's Blue Mountains.
Okay.
So he's an entire valley. Most people, if you want to look up more about Bob, just type in Humongous Fungus is kind of his other nickname. But he's been given the moniker as Bob. Is I believe one of the main researchers that first was discovered him in the early 1900s. So he kind of got named after the guy, like Bosco.
Okay. He got named after the guy that kind of discovered it.
Yeah.
They just didn't nickname it Bob, just to give it a name.
It's a fun name too,
right?
You know?
Personify it.
He's an Armalay oystera, is the type of mushroom. He was in 1998 held the new record for the holder title of the world's largest single organism. He's believed to be at least 110 foot long. Oh, sorry. So most people believe the largest organism is the blue whale, which is 110 foot long, 250 tons. We're going to break that into how many blue whales are Bob in a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's really fun. So Bob's age is up for debate.
I was going to say to be determined, correct?
Yeah, it's really hard because he's spanned. So if everybody doesn't know, mycelial networks are like basically throw a bunch of extension cables on the ground. That's a mycelial network in the ground. That's the actual fungus itself. And the mushrooms, like Jay said, are the sexual body. They're the fruiting body. So that's just the reproductive organ is above ground. The rest of Bob is underground, this massive organism. But it's mycelial networks. And then inside the mycelial networks are tinier cables called hyphae.
Right.
And they actually integrate into all the plants and trees on his back. Well, not all, but most of the plants and trees on his back are actually integrated with hyphae, and even some insect species. Questions so far? I know we've talked about Bob a lot, so you probably know all this as far as most of the organisms we do. But Bob's age, the youngest estimate for Bob is around 9,000 years old.
Dang, that's young.
That's the young estimate.
Okay.
Older estimates put him around 40 to 44,000 years old.
That's ridiculous.
Bob has two sisters that are both smaller than him. And keep in mind, this type, he's a honey mushroom.
Okay.
The type of honey mushroom he is found everywhere in the northern hemisphere in small clusters.
Then why is he so big?
We don't really know. We have 3 supersized examples, and Bob is even a supersized among those.
Okay.
Because his 2, what they call his sisters, are much smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, I think the next bigger one's like 400 acres, and then the one after that's 100 acres. So Bob's 2,300 acres.
Yeah, which is still not small, but
there's
compared
something
to Bob.
there's something that triggers these groups of honey mushroom to become absolutely massive.
Behemoths, yeah.
And they think it may be something with like forest devastation. And if like this area, like volcanic, like a lot of these are found in volcanic beds.
Okay.
So they think maybe it's something to do with volcanic eruptions. After they kill an area and there's everything to decompose, first thing that does is the mushroom decomposes everything. Yeah. And then helps bring life back. We'll talk about some of Bob's superpowers later.
Maybe that's what he's doing. He's bringing life back.
Well, that's what they think, is maybe that there was this void of death after a volcanic eruption.
And he filled that void.
Yeah.
Just like our Freaky Fauna friends on this show that we talked about throughout this whole entire show, they fill a niche that nature leaves, available for them. And this is Bob filling that niche.
This is Bob. When Bob was first discovered, he was only thought to be 37 acres big.
Yeah. What a wrong first initial reaction.
So for blue whales, like I said, a blue whale is averaging about 200 tons. So that's, 5 for 1,000 tons, 1,000,000 pounds.
Okay.
Right? Am I right? I think that's maths. I think that maths. 5 blue whales on average, I think.
No,
so 2.5. 2.5
10,000.
2.5 make 200 tons.
200 tons. Sorry.
400,000 pounds.
Correct. So yeah,
2.5 blue whales equals 1,000,000 pounds.
Yeah, I think that adds up.
So Bob's estimates of weight range anywhere from 5 million pounds up until 30 million pounds. But it's hard because they don't know how deep he goes, and we're talking about a massive amount of land.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, because that's my biggest mystery with Bob is how far deep does he reach down? We don't know.
So Bob could be roughly 70, 80, 100 blue whales.
Yeah, that's insane. What if they, how you ever been to gotten an MRI done? Mm-hmm. When they inject that stuff into you, and then it feels like you're peeing yourself. Mm-hmm. Can't we do that to Bob and then scan it from an airplane? Yeah, but remember we're gonna tell the story about how he was discovered, right? If they hurt him, that don't hurt, does it?
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in the medical industry that we do with the people that is not good.
That's true.
No, so Bob was discovered from them digging a core sample of soil, and 100 acres of trees died the next day.
Right, yeah, isn't that nuts?
So what happens is Bob is so integrated into these trees that these trees can no longer survive without him.
Right, yeah.
So we now know from soil testing that Bob kills sections of forest on his back, like a clockwise motion. And what he does is he promotes grassland growth to renutrify the soil. He does this like a big clock. So he's keeping a healthy, diverse ecosystem on his back.
It's like AI for nature.
Now, when we've talked about mushrooms and cryptids of corn, that's kind of how I describe them, is halfway between a computer and a biological when we talk about their intelligence.
Yeah.
As what we would classify as mammal intelligence.
Yeah.
And a computer's intelligence, like an actual AI, I kind of think they're a little bit in between. I think that's maybe why it's very hard when we talk about some of the communications with them. It's very hard to understand them because it's more like a computer than a conscious mammal.
Right.
Not saying they're not conscious, they're just probably conscious in a different way.
Right. It's how you communicate with them and how they send information. They would probably have an
easier, and we talked about with them putting mushrooms in computer chips. They probably have an easier time communicating with the computer than they would with us.
Yeah.
Because it makes more sense, right?
Right. And numbers in, numbers out, basically.
Yeah, and they're giant comprehensive systems.
Yeah.
They're not individualized like we are,
With a soul.
Well, who knows? But yeah, so all kinds of cool stuff about Bob. We don't really know a lot about him besides these humongous. But what do you think about Bob?
I think we need to...
This is the short version.
Oh, for sure.
Freaky Fauna.
For sure.
Because we've spent an hour on Bob on the main show before.
I was going to say, if you want a bigger, more in-depth dive of Bob, you just check out Crypts of the Corn. I don't remember what episode. Shoot, I'm sure if you just
Fungal intelligence is a big one.
Yeah. I'm sure if you just search Fungus or...
Atmospheric fungus. We talked about Bob a lot.
Might have been an episode title, Bob. I don't know.
No, Bob's definitely an episode title.
So, yeah, search Bob on our feed, Crypts of the Corn feed.
But we've seen this when we talked about mass extinctions on the main show a while ago, that fungus seemed to be the curators after mass extinction events.
Right.
They're going to help bring stuff back. Mm-hmm. And that would make sense for why Bob and his sisters, like I said, they're in volcanic valleys.
Yeah.
So that may have actually presented them their specific growing conditions or the need for that in the environment. Like at St. Helens, who knows what's happening over there right now?
Yeah.
There may be a honey mushroom because it's all the same species that's doing this.
Filling that void.
So in their same area.
Yeah.
So there may be a honey mushroom that's about to, expand and help reclaim that. Because there's tons of area in that are just still piles of burnt tree.
No, I bet, yeah.
Which is food for mushrooms.
If that overhead shot, like the aerial photo of that area before and after, is so insane. It's the whole mountainside just gone.
And it wasn't even that bad of an eruption, quote unquote.
Right. And on the grand scheme of...
When we talked about mass extinctions, do you remember the one that sped up a continent?
Right, yeah. Was that the Toba super volcano or something?
No, it was way bigger than that.
Okay.
We're talking, which that was I don't even remember which mass extinction it was now. Maybe the Devonian or the Silurian.
Yeah, I don't know.
It rained fire.
Yeah. Crustacean.
The crustacean, there you go. But no, this is just a simple little, quick thing about Bob for Freaky Fauna Friday. Bob's really cool. Mushrooms are a whole different world. There's a lot of medical things coming with mushrooms, and so there's going to be a lot more mushroom stuff in the world. Try some lion's mane. You got to make sure you're not allergic.
Yeah.
Because there are people that are allergic to mushrooms that don't know it.
And it's probably a good thing to be aware of before you start scarfing them down.
Yeah, so people try just a tiny piece of lion's mane cooked first and just see what happens before you start putting it in your tea. I put it in my tea when we were at Ronald McDonald House, and I didn't really taste it.
Yeah.
But it did really change the color of the tea.
Okay.
So you could tell it was in there, but it really didn't. After it was like blanched, essentially, it really didn't have any flavor to it.
Okay.
But I know when people grill it, they say it really has a shellfish taste. So a lot of vegetarians and stuff like that use it for a replacement for shrimp and lobster.
Wow, okay.
It's often called like tree lobster and stuff like that.
Lion's mane? Mm-hmm. Did not know that.
It's very much a shellfish one because they're animals.
Yeah. It's fauna.
I have been the great and peaceful Mr. E.
And I've been Jay.
We'll catch you next week, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Freaky Fauna Friday. If you want to help the podcast grow, remember to share and give it a 5-star review.